We wanted to announce today that we have absentee ballots of 46,428 requested. Now that compares, and a lot of people try to get this up so they get their election totals right. It compares back to 69,902, which was 3 weeks ago tomorrow. We're objective. So we're running about 2/3 of the amount. We have healthy lines Saturday at the circuit clerks. We were very pleased to see people coming out to cast a ballot. I think that's a very strong indicator that we'll have another good turnout. As you know, the turnout 3 weeks ago was a record for mid-year. We voted over 940,000 people. Real proud of our voters for going to the polls in that kind of majority. So we're excited to have that, and we're excited about the upcoming one. We do have elections, individuals from our office and others. We will have 35 people in the counties. We intend to be in about 40 counties tomorrow. Those counties are selected by the Secretary of State's office and our election service division. They're selected in a bipartisan way all across Mississippi. Many of the counties will be from the very top to the very bottom. We'll be just about everywhere tomorrow. I'm pleased to do that. We will be out to make sure that the elections go well tomorrow, and we'll also be coordinating with that. To my knowledge today, we have no federal observers coming to Mississippi again. That is time after time we no longer have federal observers. We used to have them every single time, really since the mid-60s. So we don't have any federal observers that have notified us at this particular time. So we're looking forward to another large turnout. The ballot will be smaller. We have a few contested judicial races. Everyone needs to pay attention to that. That's a third seat of government. And then, of course, we have the major Senate race that will be tomorrow. And we're encouraging everybody to go get out and vote. I did distribute over several hundred of these bracelets that says Mississippi misses you. Those were distributed to the Kuwait and to members of the press here. And they were distributed to our men and women in Kuwait, the 155th. All of those will be on the job tomorrow, and they'll be in the desert. They'll be in 10 different countries tomorrow defending your right to go cast a ballot, and we recommend that you honor them by going and casting your ballot. So with that, I'll take questions. Scott,
so much volatility in this Senate election. What concerns and precautions are being taken to make sure that this election goes off without these problems?
Well, we started years ago on training our election commissioners and our circuit clerks. They are the backbone that run the election. Quite frankly, I'll be the coach on the sidelines tomorrow. We have repeatedly met with them. We meet with them every Wednesday. We've met with them repeatedly in training. I think they're up to the task, and I think that they will be up to the task tomorrow. I don't think we'll have very long lines. I think we'll be able to go right through quickly tomorrow, and encourage everybody not to be on your cell phone. Go cast your ballot, you're going to work. So we think that it's going to go well. We have issues that I've talked to you all about before, cybersecurity issues. And I will tell you right now, there were tens of thousands of attempts to overload the state of Mississippi's polling locator site this last election, 3 weeks ago. So I started the day with our cybersecurity team, and we work on that every single day. So far as of right now, we're in good shape, but that is an ongoing, minute by minute, hour by hour fight.
When you say overload, can you expand on that, please?
Well, our polling locator allows people to look up where they go cast a ballot, and we've had that on my system for years. People have used it, several hundred, sometimes 1,000 people will use it to go. There are different polling locations for both county elections sometimes, and city elections, and sometimes these elections. So we have a polling locator. It's been up there. What happens is they attempt to computerize, flood that with tens of thousands of hundreds of thousands of attempts to look for a polling location. And that would, if we hadn't been prepared for it, it would have closed the whole site. So that's just an example of, I think, what we do every day now in elections. It wasn't that way when I started. We were worried about voter ID and other issues, and voter rolls and other things. Now, a good bit of our time is worried about cybersecurity.
Any electioneering warnings that you want to put out there now?
Yeah, there were a couple of things that came, and you can see in our press conferences, our press releases. First, we had individuals calling, saying, I'm so-and-so from this party or that, and I got your telephone number from the voting rolls. We don't release telephone numbers. Most of the time, we don't even have telephone numbers for anybody, but we don't release them. So that wasn't us. We have cautioned the party in writing not to do that anymore, to say that they got those. We had complaints coming in. We had one that was tagged to go vote that tagged our polling locator site, and we had some complaints about that particular party being endorsed by the state of Mississippi. Of course, it was not. Anybody can use a polling locator site that wants to, any party or any individual, so that's a common thing. But those are the main questions I think I've gotten and our staff has gotten over the last week.
Mr. Secretary, have you received any complaints about the absentee ballots not being in the same form? We got some calls at our station from a few voters who saying that they had some problem with the absentee ballots. They contacted Hinds County, Mr. Wallace, and he said there might have been some hiccups because of the holiday. And they were not getting, the ballots did not look the same. They got the request in, but they didn't get the ballots back in a timely fashion.
I'm not familiar with that. I haven't seen any or heard anything from that. Mr. Wallace hadn't called me, so I can't really comment on that.
What's the process of counting absentee ballots, especially considering how many there are? Does every single one get counted? How does that work?
They do, with one exception. If you go in, one of the benefits of having absentee ballots like this, if you decide to change your mind based on advertising or some candidate's statement, you can go in and cast your ballot on election day in Mississippi. And when you do, we void out the absentee ballot. So you still have, even though you may have voted absentee, you have the right to come cancel your ballot if you want to do that. Other than that, they're all counted, most usually, at the end of the day at 7 o'clock, when all the other ballots are counted. They go through the list right there and make sure there's no double voting. For example, somebody voted and had an absentee ballot. They make sure that they count the absentee ballots and they decide whether they're valid or not and that kind of thing. So that usually goes on at the precinct, on the evening of election.
And then Saturday, we saw a lot of long lines, especially in Hinds County. That shows that people are engaged, but does it also indicate that we could be doing some things better to move that along?
Well, I guess the only question there is if you staff, and of course circuit clerks all have budgets, so they staff however they want to. I think, well, we don't want anybody to wait. I want to tell you about somebody that's waiting, if you want to know about that. Let me tell you who's waiting. The 155th left in May of this year. They won't be back till next March. They're gone an entire year. Now they won't be home to cast a ballot. I went to Kuwait to help them cast a ballot. That's where this bracelet comes from. They won't be home to take care of their children. They won't be home if somebody has an illness. All the things that goes on. The car won't start. They're not here to help. So they're gone an entire year. You can wait 10 minutes to cast a ballot. Just think about what they're doing. So I would encourage everybody to put this in the realistic perspective of people. That's 3,200 Mississippians in that one brigade, not counting others that are over there. So y'all think about this. I'm so sorry you may have to wait a few minutes. That's a healthy sign. When you see a lot of people at the ballot box and you see a line, that's a good thing because people are participating in governing.
Even for people who said they waited maybe 4 hours on Saturday to meet that.
I don't think anybody ought to have to wait 4 hours. Just basically, no, I don't. Now, if there's a line, yeah, I'm happy about that. I'd like to see people lined up going in to vote quickly and efficiently. But that's on a circuit clerk by circuit. That may have happened in Hinds, but it may not have happened in 81 other counties, so I don't think that's indicative necessarily.
Question. Based on absentee ballots, can you project or at least speculate what do you think voter turnout will be for this election?
It usually runs 4 to 5%. So you can, I don't know how many of these, if you say we got 40,000 of them, you could go 4 times that and come up with the reciprocal number. But I've given up on predicting. I was happy to see that we had 944,000 people cast a ballot. And we've had approximately 2/3 of the same absentee ballot requests, so that may give you some indication. But I anticipate a healthy election.
30% turnout if I get the math right?
It's 1.8 million voters.
Okay.
You talked about trying to help the people in the 155th, but as I'm sure you're aware, you got sued today by a group that said that they don't think in general that people that because of the short time frame between certification and the election, including the holiday, that they don't think it was impossible for sort of other absentee voters to vote, to request a ballot by mail and vote absentee. Can you talk about that issue?
Well, I did receive a suit today by 3 individuals who claimed that they, in fact, requested a ballot and they had not received it by November the 20th. And so I don't know how to go further into that. The records in the Secretary of State's office show they were mailed on November the 17th. They were downloaded on November the 17th and most likely mailed on that date, which gives 10 days for them to get their ballot and send it back in. Now, that's number one. Number two, I have long been a proponent of the rights of the state of Mississippi and every other state to have their constitutional right to determine their own electoral process. We have voter ID. Some states don't have voter ID. In a recent poll by Millsaps, 81% of Mississippians favored voter ID. That's the way we want to cast. That's the way we want to cast our ballots. That's what our state legislature has adopted. Our Constitution has been adopted. So when you come to these kinds of issues, I think you look at the Mississippi legislature. They're the ones that will establish the voting rights for the state of Mississippi. In this particular instance, I met with the Attorney General. They'll be responding, and I'm sure we'll go to trial. But that's not the most. Just a second. Hold on, Jeff. Hold on, just a second. Hold on, just a second. Let me finish. That's not the most important thing, Jeff. The most important thing is who casts a ballot tomorrow. That's the most important. Not these 3 people, and not a theory case here that'll go through the courts and whatever process it goes through. The most important thing is you go vote tomorrow. And when people do this in the last hour of the last day on 3 different ones, that should not in any way denigrate the fact that we all will go cast a ballot. So go cast a ballot. This will wind through the system somehow.
We're not going to take
state senator who was a member of the legislature at a news conference last week who raised much the same concerns at the window between certification and to request an absentee ballot, and then have it mailed to you, and then get it back. But it was just too short with the Thanksgiving holiday in between.
Yeah, I haven't seen any proposed legislation from Senator Blunt or others, and when we see that, we'll address it.
Have you seen the nuisance and the signs that were in the Capitol?
I did not see those. I had somebody from, I think Mississippi Public Radio told me that may have occurred. I have not seen that.
Talk to the Department of Safety. I don't have any thoughts on the matter.
What was it?
2 nooses, about 5 signs. They claim things like this. They need to elect leaders who apologize for the past. Those types of things that were written on those signs.
I did not see any of those. You know, that doesn't reflect the state of Mississippi. I'm just telling you. You know, our state has turned a page, and I just mentioned one of them, voter ID, that was a very heavily discussed, a political issue, and brought back a lot of older issues, but those passed. You know, when we went to the ballot box, we voted to do that, about 62%. Anything like that that is harmful to anybody is not reflective of Mississippi. It's just not, in my opinion, and it's not going to be reflective to me.